What's going on, everyone? Talon here, and welcome back to the Character Lab. Alright, so in today's episode, we're going to be looking at Ancient One, so let's go ahead and get Ancient One loaded up in the lab here. Alright, so here we have Ancient One. His real name is Yao. He's 5'11", weighs 160 pounds, and Ancient One is a master of the mystic arts, and in his youth was a skilled athlete and martial artist. But now in his old age, it has become increasingly or much more difficult for him to perform any major mystical feats because of the strain that it puts on his body. So, Ancient One has spent a lot of his time training dedicated disciples by passing down his wisdom in both the mystic arts and abilities. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at my Ancient One in-game, and we'll get started from there. Alright, so here's my Ancient One. I do have all of his gears maxed out, so his gears are at 20. We have all attack or energy attack here, we have all defense, we have HP, and then some skill cooldown. Alright, and then his obelisk is nothing special. I just have a immune to stun and immune to snare. I was kind of just messing around with him in different levels, and I found that he was getting stunned a lot when I was trying to cast certain skills, so I was just throwing this on him just to see if it helps him out in those particular levels. The main one being the floor 21, where I was trying him out against Venom, and that did help, but his DPS was just a little too low. But I did end up just keeping it on there just because I like having the immunities for him. And then for the skills here, the only ones I have maxed out are Ancient Cure, Inner Self, and the Ancient Enhancement. I didn't really need to max out the Ancient Enhancement. I thought it might help with the max HP, but it did not. The Inner Self just helps with the Summon and Illusion stats, so you get 85%, so which is nice. But mainly it's going to be used for the 5 seconds of Invisibility and Invincibility, which is really nice. And then for his Ice Weight set, we just have Stark Backing, which is going to help him even more with his survivability. With his heal from the heal circle, don't necessarily need Stark's backing, so you could definitely go with a damage set here if you're going to try to use Ancient One for more of a DPS type character, even though his DPS is really low. Uniform, I do not have his uniform right now. And let's go check out the details here. Alright, so not too well built, as you can see. His skill cooldown is higher than it needs to be, so I can change up that last stat to Ignore Defense. And his Ignore Defense is only at 11%, so you could use more of that as well. So that's definitely probably what I'm going to be doing a little later on. And then we have increased damage to supervillain types as one of his abilities, and then we have just increased energy attack as his other ability. So that's going to be the stats on Ancient One here, so now let's go ahead and get into the first test. Alright, so here we are at Shadowland. So we're going to go ahead and look at the floor 2 Rumble here. So we have blast types on advantage, so we're just going to bring in Ancient One here. He has his own self-buffing leadership, so no need to give him a leadership or any team-ups, because he can pretty much just do this on his own. So let's skip through here. Alright, so as you can see, just pop up your healing bubble, use your 4th skill to get that invincibility and invisibility, so the enemies don't take you down too fast. And yeah, you pretty much just rotate through all of his skills and you should be fine, as long as you make sure to keep that 4th and 5th going as soon as they become available. He's pretty much an easy clear here. Only complaint is, of course, his DPS is a little low, but that's probably because I don't have my Ancient One built at all for DPS. He's pretty much just all survivability. So there we go. So he's a nice clear for the Rumbles. Of course, you're going to want higher DPS if you're going to be using him on any of the higher stages, of course. So now let's go ahead and look at the next clip that we have here. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and get him going for the rally mode. So we have the Captain America, Punisher, and Blade, and Hulkbuster hiding back there. So let's go ahead and load him up in here. Same thing, we're just bringing him in. And it's pretty much the same as the Rumble. You're just going to keep rotating through all your skills. And again, he doesn't have much problems here as well. Just another issue with the DPS being a little low, because as you can see, it's taking him pretty much most of the time to get through this floor here, and it's still an early floor. But again, like I said in the first one, my Ancient One is not geared for any kind of DPS, just all survivability. Alright, so now let's go ahead and look at the next one here. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and jump into the Male Heroes rally mode. So we're going to bring an Ancient One here. And this one's going to be a little tougher for him just because he also has the disadvantage, of course, against Winter Soldier and Falcon. So as you can see, it is going to take him a very long time to clear this, again because of the low DPS, but survivability is fine. He doesn't really have much problems there. Because as you can see, even when I took a few hits, because my skill cooldown could use a little bit, I was able to recover it back pretty fast. So I did time out here, but again, like I said, if you have any kind of DPS on your Ancient One, you'll be able to beat this floor pretty easily. But of course, in the later floors, even if you have your Ancient One geared for DPS, it's probably not going to be enough unless you have tier 2 to get that little extra boost. So now we're going to try him against the Hulk Rumble, which is another Rumble where you want a blast character that deals only energy damage, no physical in any of his attacks. So Ancient One is also a good choice for this as well. And this is a little higher up because this is floor 14. So as you can see, when he does have the advantage and he can hit all of them together, you can perform pretty well, because even with the low DPS build I have on my Ancient One, as you can see here, I ended up finishing this one. So yes, you can clear it even with the low DPS. So that is going to be the last clip that I have for Shadowlands. So Ancient One is pretty strong in Shadowlands just because of his high survivability. And of course, if you use him for a secondary character, you can always drop the heal down and then switch to your main DPSer to get that heal going. Or if you're doing like a Rumble or something like that, of course, he's a nice character for distraction and to just have on the side while you're using your main DPS character, because he doesn't die very easily. Alright, so that's going to be Shadowlands. So now let's go ahead and move on to the next test. Alright, so here we are at World Boss. We have Thanos as per usual, and we're just going to go ahead and use this classic team here. We have Ancient One Caecilius and Baron Mordo. Get a few team ups here, nothing too special, a little energy attack skill cooldown and some max HP. We just have all energy damage strikers here, and then we're going to load him up. Alright, so here we go. So we're going to get that heal down, or try to. We're going to get interrupted a few times there. And of course use our 4th skill just so we don't take quite as much damage, because we do want to have that heal up. So we'll get through here. As you can see, it's pretty much just heal, do your two damaging attacks, and use your 4th skill, heal, 4th skill, heal, 4th skill, just get in some DPS as you go. So yeah, because of his heal, it makes World Boss pretty easy, unless the World Boss is able to like one-shot you, or in maybe Proxima's case like stun lock you or something like that, just because of his survivability. So not too much problems here. So as you can see, even with the meteors raining down on Ancient One, he was able to just heal up and then just cast the 4th skill to finish healing up so he doesn't take any damage while Thanos is hitting him on the ground pretty much. So yeah, it's a pretty easy clear for Ancient One. So he is a viable World Boss option, because even with the build that I have for Ancient One right now, which is all survivability and like no DPS, he was still able to beat Thanos in 3 minutes and 31 seconds. So he's definitely a World Boss capable character, so he can get you World Boss clears if you do need another character for that. And also because his leadership does give him that 45% increase, it's also good to get him just for that. So now that we've looked at him in World Boss, let's go ahead and move on to the final test. Alright, so here we are at Alliance Conquest. So we're just going to go ahead and use Ancient One with 2 random characters here. We're going to go against nice easy teams so we can get a clear look at his skill rotation. So let's go ahead and load him up in here. Let's get to the start. Alright, so here we go, first half. So, Ancient One starts off, he jumps back, and he does the ancient circles right there that shoot out the energy projectiles, which is his first skill. And that is an iframe, so he does start off with an iframe, which is nice. And then he jumps into the second skill after that, as you can see right there from the magic circle on the ground that shoots up a few beams of light, does some damage to the enemies. That is his second skill. And then he rotates right back to his first skill. So he generally switches between his first and second skills. So there's nothing too special there except that his first skill is an iframe. So that is very nice, but he's not really going to get around to using his healing circle or his fourth skill for the clone or the illusion in short fights. I think in long fights he has used it before because I have seen it used against me, but in battles where I'm using Ancient One, I don't necessarily see him using the healing circle or the fourth skill. So generally you can expect to be seeing the first and second skill being used quite often with him, which, like I said, can be beneficial just because the first skill starts off with that iframe, so it can maybe interrupt the opponent's targeting. And it could also get off some guaranteed damage right there, but his DPS is a little low, so you may want to build him more towards DPS if you're going to be using him in Alliance Conquest. And I can't see him being quite a tanky character in Alliance Conquest if you put an invincibility obelisk on him, because if he does survive for a while, he might get around to using that healing circle, but it's not too reliable. So he's going to be overall probably a mediocre character for Alliance Conquest, nothing too special that you want to invest in specifically for Alliance Conquest, but of course his leadership is going to be very good, and he does have some pretty good team-up bonuses that can be used. Alright, so that's Alliance Conquest. Let's go ahead and wrap up this test here and take a final look at Ancient One. Alright, so that was Ancient One getting put through the character lab. Overall, he's a pretty versatile and strong character just because of his survivability. DPS is extremely low compared to most characters, because even with his leadership that you will probably be using most of the time you use him, he still does pretty lackluster damage. But that aside, his survivability does make up for it, so he is a viable option for World Boss, a viable option for Shadowlands for multiple different floors, but probably only in the early floors. And Alliance Conquest, he does seem to have some potential there as well, so he's a pretty well-rounded character, and since he is farmable, he's going to be worth the investment in my opinion. So definitely a character to look into if you haven't already gotten him. So hopefully this look at him in the lab here has helped you in deciding what you're going to do with Ancient One. So that's going to be it with this video. I hope you enjoyed, and of course I will catch you in the next one.